I knew something was wrong when my daughter didn't answer the door. I had driven 4 hours from my home in Vermont to her house in Connecticut, through rain that made the highway look like a river. My windshield wipers worked overtime. My back ached from gripping the steering wheel. But I kept going because today was my grandson's college graduation party, and nothing was going to stop me from being there. Except, apparently, my own daughter. I knocked again. Through the frosted glass, I could see people moving inside. Music played. Laughter floated through the walls. The driveway was packed with cars I didn't recognize. BMWs, Mercedes, a Tesla with a vanity plate that read "Blessed." I checked my phone. The invitation had said 2 o'clock. It was 2:15. I was fashionably late, just like my daughter had always preferred. The door finally opened, but it wasn't my daughter standing there. It was a woman I'd never seen before, mid-40s, blonde highlights, wearing a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "Can I help you?" she asked, looking me up and down like I was selling magazines. "I'm here for the party," I said. "I'm Ethan's grandmother." She tilted her head. "Oh, I didn't realize there was another grandmother coming. Another grandmother." The words hung in the air like smoke. "I'm his maternal grandmother," I clarified. Patricia's mother. Recognition flickered across her face, but not the warm kind. More like someone remembering an unpleasant chore they'd forgotten to complete. "Right, of course, come in. I'll find Patricia for you." She didn't offer to take my coat. She didn't offer me a drink. She simply walked away, heels clicking on the marble floor, leaving me standing in the foyer like a delivery person, waiting for a signature. The house was beautiful. I'd never been inside before. My daughter had moved here 3 years ago, after her husband Richard got promoted to something important at his investment firm. She'd sent photos once, glossy images that looked like they belonged in a magazine. But photos don't capture the coldness of a home that's been decorated to impress rather than comfort. I clutched the gift bag in my hands. Inside was a watch. Not an expensive one. Nothing like what Richard's family probably gave. But it had belonged to my late husband, Ethan's grandfather. I'd had it cleaned and restored, the leather band replaced, the face polished until it gleamed. I wanted my grandson to have something real, something with history, something that meant more than a price tag. I found my way to the backyard, following the sound of voices. The lawn stretched out like a green carpet, dotted with white tents and round tables covered in linens. A catering staff in black uniforms circulated with trays of champagne and appetizers. A banner hung between 2 oak trees. "Congratulations, Ethan. Harvard class of 2024. I scanned the crowd for familiar faces. There must have been 100 people here, maybe more. Then I spotted him, my grandson, tall and handsome in a navy blazer, standing near the pool with a group of young people his age. He was laughing at something, his head thrown back, looking so much like his grandfather that my heart seized in my chest. I started toward him, but a hand caught my elbow. "Mother." I turned. Patricia stood behind me, her smile tight, her eyes scanning the crowd as if worried someone might see us together. "You made it," she said, and somehow made it sound like an accusation. Of course I made it. I wouldn't miss Ethan's graduation party. The ceremony was last week. I know. I was there. I had sat in the back of the stadium, watching through binoculars, because the tickets Patricia sent me were in the nosebleed section. I waved, but I don't think you saw me. It was crowded. She glanced over her shoulder. "Look, I should tell you before someone else does. We're doing introductions in a few minutes. Richard's mother is going to speak." "That's nice. She's being introduced as Ethan's grandmother." I blinked. "She is his grandmother. So am I." Patricia's jaw tightened. "It's just easier this way. Richard's family is very particular about these things. His mother has been part of Ethan's life since he was born. She paid for his prep school, his tutors, his SAT coaches. She's the one who got him into Harvard. I helped raise him, I said quietly. When you went back to work, I watched him every day for 3 years. I taught him to read. I taught him to ride a bike. I taught him to make pancakes on Sunday mornings. That was a long time ago, Mother. It was 15 years ago. He's 22. Things change. Patricia smoothed her hair, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. I'm not saying you're not important. I'm just saying that today, for this event, it would be better if you kept a low profile. Richard's colleagues are here. His boss is here. We can't have any confusion about the family structure. Confusion about the family structure. As if I were some distant relative who'd wandered in by accident. As if I hadn't changed this boy's diapers, hadn't stayed up with him when he had nightmares, hadn't been the one he called Grammy before he could pronounce his own name. What would you like me to do? I asked, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. Just mingle, enjoy the food. I'll make sure you get to say hello to Ethan before you leave. Before I leave. She'd already decided how this day would end. Where should I sit? Patricia pointed toward a table near the back of the property, half hidden behind a catering tent. There should be room over there. I'll check on you later. She walked away before I could respond, disappearing into a cluster of well-dressed guests who greeted her with air kisses and exclamations about the lovely party. I stood there for a long moment, holding my gift bag, feeling the weight of every one of my 68 years pressing down on my shoulders. Then I walked to the table she'd pointed out. 4 people were already seated there. An elderly couple who introduced themselves as Richard's great-aunt and great-uncle, a young woman who was apparently someone's nanny, here to help with the younger children, and a man in a rumpled suit who said he was with the catering company, just taking a quick break. I sat down. From this angle, I could barely see the main gathering. The tent blocked most of my view. I caught glimpses of Ethan through gaps in the fabric, watched him shake hands with men in expensive suits, pose for photos with women in designer dresses. The speeches began 20 minutes later. A microphone squealed, and Richard's voice boomed across the lawn. Thank you all for being here to celebrate our incredible son. Ethan, we are so proud of you. 4 years at Harvard, summa cum laude, and now heading to law school at Yale. You've exceeded every expectation. Applause. Cheers. Someone popped a champagne cork. I want to thank everyone who made this day possible. My beautiful wife, Patricia, who has been Ethan's biggest cheerleader since day one. More applause. I craned my neck to see my daughter waving graciously. My partners at the firm, who've watched Ethan grow up at our company picnics and holiday parties, and of course, the woman who has been like a second mother to Ethan his entire life, who has given him guidance, wisdom, and more love than anyone could ask for. My mother, Evelyn Parker, Ethan's grandmother. The crowd parted as Richard's mother stepped forward. She was a tall woman with silver hair and perfect posture, wearing pearls that probably cost more than my car. She took the microphone with practiced ease. Thank you, darling. Ethan, my sweet grandson. I remember the day you were born like it was yesterday. I held you in my arms and knew you were destined for greatness. And here you are, proving me right. She continued speaking, sharing memories, making the crowd laugh, drawing applause at all the right moments. I listened to her talk about teaching him to golf, about taking him to Europe for his 16th birthday, about the trust fund she'd established for his education. Not once did anyone mention my name. Not once did anyone acknowledge that Ethan had another grandmother, one who had read him bedtime stories, one who had held him while he cried after his first heartbreak and told him that the right person would come along someday. The nanny beside me touched my arm. Are you all right? I realized I was crying. Silent tears running down my cheeks, dripping onto the white tablecloth. I'm fine, I said, wiping my face with a napkin. Allergies. She nodded, not believing me but too polite to push. I excused myself and walked toward the house, clutching my gift bag. I needed a moment alone. I needed to breathe. The downstairs bathroom was occupied, so I climbed the stairs, looking for another. The hallway was lined with photographs. Richard and Patricia's wedding, vacations to tropical destinations, professional portraits of Ethan at various ages. I stopped in front of one. Ethan, at age 4, sitting on a woman's lap. But it wasn't me. It was Evelyn. The photograph had been retaken, I realized. I had the original at home. In the original, it was my lap he sat on, my arms wrapped around him, my kitchen visible in the background. But this version had been edited, professionally altered, my face replaced with hers. I stared at it for a long time. Grammy? I turned. Ethan stood at the top of the stairs, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Sweetheart?" I said, forcing a smile. "Congratulations! I'm so proud of you." He walked toward me slowly, hands in his pockets. "I didn't know you were coming. Your mother invited me. She said you were sick, that you couldn't make it." The words hit me like a physical blow. "She said what?" "When I asked why you weren't seated with the family, she said you'd called this morning. Food poisoning or something." He looked at the gift bag in my hands. I guess that wasn't true. "I've been here since 2 o'clock. I drove 4 hours to be here." His jaw tightened in a way that reminded me of his grandfather. "I'm sorry, Grammy. I didn't know." "It's not your fault. It's someone's fault." He glanced down the stairs, toward the sound of the party. "She shouldn't have done that. Dad's mom is great, but she's not you. You're the one who actually raised me." I reached up and touched his cheek. "You turned out wonderful. That's all that matters." "No, it's not." He took the gift bag from my hands and looked inside. When he saw the watch, his eyes glistened. "This was Grandpa's. He would have wanted you to have it." Ethan pulled the watch from the box and held it carefully, running his thumb over the face. "He taught me to tell time with this watch." We sat on the porch, and he showed me which hand was which. "I remember." He looked at me. "I'm wearing this. Right now. I'm going down there, and I'm wearing this. And when people ask about it, I'm going to tell them exactly who gave it to me." "Ethan, you don't have to make a scene." "It's not a scene, Grammy. It's the truth." He fastened the watch around his wrist. "Come downstairs with me, please." "Your mother doesn't want me out there. I don't care what she wants. I care about what's right." He offered me his arm. "Will you walk with me?" I hesitated. Every instinct told me to protect the peace, to slip away quietly, to avoid confrontation. I had spent 68 years smoothing things over, keeping my head down, accepting less than I deserved because making waves felt worse than drowning. But looking at my grandson, standing there with his grandfather's watch on his wrist and his jaw set with determination, I realized something. I wasn't just accepting less for myself. I was teaching him that love could be erased if it was inconvenient. That family could be edited like a photograph. That the people who sacrifice the most are the easiest to forget. "Yes," I said. "I'll walk with you." We descended the stairs together. Ethan's hand covered mine where it rested on his arm, warm and steady. The guests parted as we walked through the living room and out to the backyard. I saw Patricia first. Her face went pale when she spotted us. "Ethan," she started. "Not now, Mom." He led me toward the center of the gathering, where a microphone still stood from the speeches. The music had stopped. People turned to watch. Richard stepped forward. "Son, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done an hour ago." Ethan picked up the microphone. The feedback squeal made everyone wince. "Can I have your attention?" "Please." The crowd quieted. 100 faces turned toward us, curious, confused, some already whispering behind their hands. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," Ethan said. "But before we continue, I need to introduce someone. Someone who should have been introduced during the speeches but wasn't." Patricia moved toward us. "Yes, it is." He put his arm around my shoulders. "This is Grace Mitchell, my grandmother, my mother's mother, the woman who took care of me every day for the first 3 years of my life, the woman who taught me to read, to ride a bike, to make pancakes, the woman who sat with me when I had nightmares and told me stories about my grandfather, the woman who drove 4 hours today to be here and has been sitting alone at a back table because someone decided she wasn't important enough to be seen." The silence was deafening. "I love my other grandmother too," Ethan continued. "I'm grateful for everything she's done for me, but that doesn't erase this grandmother. Love isn't a competition. Family isn't a hierarchy. And I won't pretend that the woman who shaped who I am doesn't exist because it makes a party look more polished." He held up his wrist. The watch gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. This watch belonged to my grandfather, Grammy's husband. He died when I was 7. But I remember him. I remember sitting on his lap. I remember his laugh. I remember that he smelled like pipe tobacco and always had butterscotch candies in his pocket. Grammy gave me this watch today, and I'm going to wear it for the rest of my life, because some things matter more than appearance. Some things matter more than convenience. Some people matter more than we let them. He handed me the microphone. I stared at it for a moment. Everyone was watching. Patricia looked like she might faint. Richard's mother had frozen mid-sip of champagne. The caterers had stopped moving. Trays suspended in air. "I don't need to make a speech," I said quietly into the microphone. "I just need to say one thing." I looked at Ethan. "Thank you for seeing me." He hugged me then, right there in front of everyone. Not a polite, perfunctory hug, but a real one. The kind that says, "I love you, and I'm sorry, and I've got you all at once." When we separated, I saw tears on his cheeks. I probably had them on mine, too. "Grammy, will you sit with me? At my table?" I nodded. He led me away from the microphone, past the frozen crowd, to the head table where his name card sat next to Patricia and Richard's. He picked up a chair from a nearby table and placed it beside his. "There," he said. "Right where you belong." The party resumed eventually. People went back to their conversations, their champagne, their carefully curated small talk. But something had shifted. I could feel it in the way people looked at me now. Not through me, at me. Patricia approached our table an hour later. Her makeup was slightly smudged, her smile brittle. "Mother," she said. "Of course." We walked to a quiet corner of the yard, away from listening ears. "That was humiliating," she said. "For whom? For me? For Richard? For his family? And being hidden away like a shameful secret? How do you think that felt for me?" Patricia's eyes flashed. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Richard's family has certain expectations. They've given us so much. The house, Ethan's education, Richard's career advancement. I can't just throw that away." "No one asked you to throw anything away. I only asked to be acknowledged, to be allowed to sit with my own family at my grandson's party." "It's complicated." "No, Patricia. It's simple. You just made it complicated." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "I've never asked you for anything. Not money, not favors, not even gratitude for the years I spent helping you raise your son. All I've ever wanted was to be part of his life, to be part of your life. But you've been pushing me out for years, haven't you? The unreturned phone calls, the holidays I wasn't invited to, the family photos I wasn't included in." She looked away. "I noticed," I continued. "I noticed." And I said nothing. Because I thought, if I was patient, if I didn't make waves, eventually things would go back to how they used to be. But they won't, will they? You've already decided what kind of family you want to present to the world, and I don't fit. That's not true. Then why is there a photograph upstairs where my face has been replaced with Evelyn's? Patricia flinched. Yes, I saw it. Ethan, at 4 years old, sitting on my lap in my kitchen. Only now, it's her lap in her living room. My voice cracked. You edited me out of your son's memories. It wasn't like that. It was just for consistency. The gallery wall needed to match. Match what? The fantasy of a family where I don't exist? Tears were running down her face now. I never meant for it to go this far. It started small. A comment here, an exclusion there. Richard's mother is so particular, and I just wanted everyone to get along. So you sacrificed me instead. I thought you'd understand. You always understand. You never complain. You never fight back. And that made me easy to erase. She covered her face with her hands. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I stood there, watching my daughter cry, and felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just a deep, aching sadness for everything we'd lost. I forgive you, I said finally. Not because what you did was okay, but because holding on to anger would hurt me more than it hurts you. She looked up. But things are going to change, Patricia. I'm not disappearing anymore. I'm not keeping quiet to make your life easier. Ethan knows the truth now. Your guests know. And I'm going to be part of my grandson's life whether it's convenient for you or not. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really hear this. I spent 40 years being a good mother to you. I sacrificed my career, my social life, my marriage at times, to make sure you had everything you needed. And now I'm 68 years old, and I'm done sacrificing. I'm done being small so other people can feel big. Patricia nodded slowly. What do you want me to do? I want you to remember who you are. Not Richard's wife, not Evelyn's daughter-in-law. You, the girl who used to help me bake Christmas cookies. The girl who cried in my arms when her father died. The girl who promised she'd never forget where she came from. I touched her cheek, still wet with tears. I miss that girl. I miss her too, Patricia whispered. We stood there for a long moment, mother and daughter, wounded and weary, but still standing. Come back to the party, I said. Your son is waiting. We walked back together. Ethan waved us over to his table. Richard watched warily from across the lawn, but he didn't approach. His mother had left, apparently having developed a sudden headache. I spent the rest of the afternoon at my grandson's side. I met his friends, heard about his plans for law school, laughed at stories about his college adventures. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. When the party ended and the last guest departed, Ethan walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, Grammy. Thank you for finding me. He glanced at his watch. My husband's watch. His watch now. I'm going to come visit you this summer, he said. Before law school starts, I want to stay at the house, go fishing in the pond, make pancakes on Sunday mornings, like we used to. I would love that. And Grammy? He leaned in close. Don't let Mom push you around anymore. You're too important for that. I smiled. I'm learning. The drive home took longer than usual. The rain had stopped, but the roads were slick, and I drove carefully, my mind full of everything that had happened. When I finally pulled into my driveway, the sun was setting behind the mountains. The house looked the same as always. Small, modest, a white colonial that needed a new roof and probably a paint job. But it was mine. It had been mine and my husband's, and now it was just mine. And for the first time in years, that felt okay. I went inside, kicked off my shoes, and sat in my husband's old armchair. His photograph watched me from the mantel. Handsome, even at 70, always smiling. Always believing the best in people. I did something brave today, I told him. Finally. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. I made myself tea and sat by the window, watching the stars come out one by one. Tomorrow, I would call my lawyer. Not for anything dramatic, just to update my will. I'd been planning to leave most everything to Patricia, but now I wasn't sure that made sense. Ethan would receive his grandfather's fishing gear, the collection of first edition books his grandfather had treasured, and a portion of the savings I'd been quietly accumulating for years. But the house, my house, I wanted to leave to someone who would appreciate it. Someone who understood that home isn't about square footage or property values. Maybe I'd leave it to a charity, maybe to my old church. Maybe I'd sell it and donate the proceeds to the library where I'd volunteered for 20 years. I didn't know yet. But for the first time, the decision felt like mine to make. The next few weeks passed quietly. Patricia called twice. Awkward conversations full of apologies and promises to do better. I listened, said thank you, made no promises in return. Ethan texted almost daily. Photos of his apartment. Questions about family recipes. Once, a video of him making pancakes, captioned, "Not as good as yours, but I'm trying." Richard's mother sent a card. A formal, stiff apology that read like it had been drafted by a lawyer. I didn't respond. In June, Ethan arrived for his promised visit. He stayed 2 weeks. We fished in the pond, caught nothing, laughed anyway. We made pancakes every Sunday. And by the second week, he was better at flipping them than I was. We sat on the porch in the evenings, watching fireflies and talking about everything and nothing. On his last night, he asked to see the photo albums. The real ones. The ones I'd kept in the closet since Patricia had stopped asking for copies. We sat on the couch and went through them together. Ethan as a baby, wrinkled and red, nestled in my arms. Ethan at 2, covered in birthday cake. Ethan at 4, sitting on my lap in my kitchen, the original photo, the real one. "I'm going to get this framed," he said. "Hang it in my apartment. Your father might not like that." "I don't care what my father likes." He turned the page. "These are my memories, Grammy. Mine and yours. Nobody gets to edit them." After he left, the house felt emptier than usual, but not sad. Just waiting. Waiting for the next visit, the next phone call, the next burnt pancake photo in my text messages. A month later, I received an invitation in the mail. Heavy cardstock, elegant font. Patricia and Richard were renewing their vows for their 25th anniversary. The ceremony would be in the Hamptons, at a venue I'd never heard of, with a guest list I probably wouldn't recognize. I almost threw it away. Then I noticed the handwriting at the bottom, below the formal printed text. Patricia's handwriting, still familiar after all these years. "Mom, I know I don't deserve it, but please come. I want you there. Really there. This time. Front row. We need to start over. Love, your daughter." I sat with the invitation for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and called her. "I got your invitation," I said. "And I'll come. On one condition. And one condition. Anything." I walked down the aisle. Before the ceremony, the coordinator announces my name. And I walk down the aisle, and everyone sees me. No back tables, no allergies excuses, no photograph editing. There was a long pause. "Done," Patricia said. "And one more thing." "Yes?" "The pancakes recipe. The one you said you lost." "I know you didn't lose it. I know you stopped making it because it reminded you of me, of home, of who you were before you became who you are now." Silence. "I want you to make it. For the brunch after the ceremony. Your grandmother's recipe. My mother's recipe. The one I taught you when you were 8 years old." "Mom, I don't know if I remember how." "Then come home and I'll teach you again, the weekend before the ceremony, just you and me, like it used to be. I heard her crying on the other end of the line. Not the angry tears from the party, something softer, something that sounded like relief. "I'll be there," she whispered. "I know you will." We hung up. I sat in my husband's armchair and looked at his photograph. "I think we're going to be okay," I said. And for the first time in years, I believed it. That summer, my daughter came home. She arrived on a Friday evening, looking smaller than I remembered, more tentative. We stood in the driveway for a moment, neither sure how to begin. Then she walked into my arms, and I held her the way I used to when she was small, when the world was too big and I was the only thing that made sense. "I'm sorry," she said into my shoulder, "for all of it. I know. I forgot who I was. But you remembered. That's what matters." We spent the weekend cooking. The pancake recipe, yes, but also her grandmother's biscuits, my mother's chicken soup, all the dishes that had been passed down through generations of women who understood that love sometimes tastes like butter and flour in Sunday mornings. She told me about her life, really told me. The pressure of Richard's world, the constant competition with his family, the fear that she wasn't enough, would never be enough, no matter how many rooms she added to the house or zeros she added to the bank account. I listened. I didn't judge. I just listened. By Sunday evening, when she left to drive back to Connecticut, something had changed between us. Not fixed, exactly. You can't fix 20 years of distance in one weekend. But mended, stitched back together with recipes and conversations, and the simple act of being together. The vow renewal ceremony was beautiful, small, intimate, nothing like the spectacle I'd expected. Patricia walked down the aisle on Ethan's arm, both of them smiling. Richard cried during his vows. Even Evelyn, seated across the aisle from me, nodded politely in my direction. And when the coordinator announced my name, when I walked down that aisle in my best dress with my head held high, I didn't do it for revenge. I didn't do it to prove a point. I did it for me. Because after 68 years, I finally understood something important. You don't have to fight to be seen. You just have to stop agreeing to be invisible. The pancakes at brunch were perfect. Patricia made them herself, standing at the stove in a borrowed apron, flipping them with the same motion I'd taught her 40 years ago. Ethan helped, cracking eggs and measuring flour, wearing his grandfather's watch. I sat at the head of the table and watched my family, imperfect and broken and trying, and I thought about all the years I'd spent waiting to be noticed, waiting to be valued, waiting for someone to make room for me at the table. I don't wait anymore. Now I just pull up a chair. If you've listened this far, if something in this story felt familiar, then I want you to know something. You are not invisible. You are not expendable. You are not a photograph that can be edited to make someone else's life look more polished. You are real. You are important. You matter. And if no one else has told you that today, let me be the first. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting my story find a home in your heart. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. And if you have a story of your own, tell it. Write it down. Say it out loud. Because the moment we stop sharing our truths is the moment we start disappearing. And we're done disappearing. I promise you that.